Hey, what's going on there, folks? Welcome back here to a Wednesday. It is the Earthmaster here, about 12:10 p.m. California time. July 24th, 2024 is the date. Latest activity here on the globe shows a 1.1 into the California area. We did see a three-pointer down there, Southern California, as well, early this morning. So let's check out Hawaii first, because we're still seeing quite a bit of earthquake activity there. Underneath the Kilauea volcano, this is a live, or at least a recent updated webcam imagery there from the East Rift Zone of Kilauea volcano. All looks well at the surface, but underneath here we still got a swarm of earthquake activity that's eventually probably going to lead to an eruption here. Mainly I'm thinking in this region up here of some former, older past lava flows. And we can turn this on a little bit and see where we've seen some recent activity there. Back in 1951 to 1982, they had a series of lava flows here from this area. I'm definitely leaning towards this area in terms of our future event here soon. All right, so there's all the earthquake activity. Let's check out the deformation data here real quick, see what I'm doing. It's acting a little odd, but this is at the summit area. Notice that large drop here in the inflation. This is vertical displacement, very visible. In fact, it looks like we lost more than a week's worth of inflation there across the summit and the East Rift Zone, upper East Rift Zone. So magma has been on the move somewhere, and I'm thinking that it's right there where all the increasing earthquake activity is taking place, right around this region right here. So there's various tilt meters out here. But that graph I just showed you guys is for mainly up here. So magma got displaced from the summit area, headed down into this direction. Now there's still a possibility we could see it displaced further down across the lower East Rift Zone, unless we get a breakage there at the surface levels in terms of a fissure event, eruptive fissure event. But right now it's just a waiting game. Let's check out the seismograph station here real quick, and we'll check out the earthquake activity. Here's the past 12 hours, right? Look at that. Still, I meant to key this up here. There we go. 12 hours, 24, 48 hours, 6 hours. Doesn't matter which one you look at. They are all quite active in terms of continued earthquake activity, even up to this hour. So hundreds of earthquakes overnight. Too many to count. The USGS is showing, let's see how many they're showing up here on their graph. About 185 earthquakes here. And, that's for the ones that they can locate and count and get the correct depth and magnitude and location. Then they publish it here to their earthquake catalog here. But there's definitely a lot more than just, almost 200 earthquakes here, even in the last 12 hours. So you could probably triple that number and you get a more accurate earthquake count, but that's a lot. So we're not done yet. The volcano is still sitting at a yellow and advisory. There's my birds in the background. That looks like they want to be on the video today. I don't know if you guys could hear them or not. Got a couple parakeets there. Yellow and advisory is the status of the volcano. For a short time yesterday, for a couple hours in the morning, they had this set at orange and watch, but they changed it, even though we still got a lot of earthquake activity ramping up here. So no new update as of today. A little slow. The last update was put out from yesterday, but continue to keep an eye on it. Nothing visible at the surface, as I showed you guys here. Looks like a beautiful day out there on the Big Island. This is today's image. As you can see, local time, 64 degrees out there. Beautiful. I'll take that over the 93 we got right now. It's supposed to be up around 110 again here in California. Pretty hot. So a bunch of earthquake activity. Odd ground deformation here. We lost magma across this area, but that's why I'm leaning towards more of an eruption across this area, or maybe potentially a magma intrusion further off and about. It could be south, it could be east. Who knows? Right now it's following a trail this way, in this fashion here, to the southeast. So that would put it a little bit closer towards the lower East Rift Zone. But overall, continue to keep an eye on it. that's about all we can do for right now. Hundreds of earthquakes and some odd inflation going on there. All right, Yellowstone National Park, real quick. We'll check this out. I don't think we've seen any other hydrothermal explosion overnight. No earthquakes to report. A live look, or at least a look here at the recorded data, shows not a whole lot of earthquake activity. This event here looks like it could be some type of wind or thunderstorm activity here in the last couple hours. That's what it looks like. So let's go double check that and see. I do want to, verify if I'm going to make a statement. So I'd like to go over here and check this out real quick. It could be wind, it could be radar, thunderstorms. It looks like it's localized just to one station here. So, excuse me. And that's north of the Lake Yellowstone area, right around Lake Yellowstone's right here. So it would put it right about in this area here where they're seeing a little bit of rain shower activity. I'm sure there's some lightning and thunder being recorded in that as well. Let's check out the past hour here, and we'll get a little bit better perspective of where it's moving to. Actually, it looks like it's just popping up here in this area and moving off, dissipating, back building here. So yeah, it's going to be a busy afternoon in terms of thunderstorm activity up here around Yellowstone National Park. So there is thunderstorms out there. Obviously, we got those lightning strikes, and I'm sure there's more. So that's what we are seeing here on a couple of these stations, showing up pretty nicely there on the Norris Junction station. But that's not earthquake activity, not magma movement, but weather. Crazy how the weather and whatnot can produce outside interference on these graphs. But we see it a lot. We see it in the wintertime. We see ice quakes. We see, the big time winds that they get up there in Wyoming. Yeah. All right, so nothing going on up there for now. Northern California, fairly quiet. Not a whole lot showing up here on the USGS side of things here. A couple of smaller quakes off the Greenville. I think this is the Greenville fault. I believe those are from late last night. Early this morning, a 2.7 there struck, along with a 2.6 prior to that. But really nothing else here so far this morning. The rest of California got a three-pointer over here near Death Valley. A couple different faults that sit out there. This earthquake coming in fairly shallow. Really nothing following that event, but did have a three-pointer out there. And the rest of extreme Southern California down here looks like a typical day. In fact, it looks a little below background levels here for any given earthquake day. A couple smaller quakes here at the southern end of the Elsinore Fault, leading down into the Baja California area. Looks like you're seeing a little bit of swarming down there into the Middle America Trench. And Texas area, looks like we're still seeing a little bit of activity out here in the oil fields. In between now, in between these two areas, they're getting hit a little bit near Big Spring. So that will continue. Pressure obviously can migrate through continents here. It's always underneath strain. Continents are always underneath strain. Plates here are always under the pressure. Looks like we got a little bit of activity here towards the New Madrid seismic zone early this morning, about 5 o'clock my time. We've seen a 2.4 in this area. That's a major area in terms of producing large historical earthquakes, and that no doubt will produce another one day. But I can't help but wonder if maybe all these oil fields and stuff like that out here that we've been doing to the earth have maybe put off earthquakes in certain regions that maybe should see some activity. Because when these earthquakes struck here back in the early 1800s, we didn't have the oil and pumping operations out here in the wastewater disposal ponds that are now, I don't know if maybe millions out here. There's a lot, hundreds of thousands of them out here throughout Texas and Oklahoma. So all these earthquakes here, are they just maybe preventing a bigger one from happening up here? Who knows? But either way, this area can see some large quakes, but it's just interesting to see how the stress and whatnot, maybe what we're doing is opening up a different area for a large quake. Texas, Oklahoma area, you never know. it's a theory, right? Put a whole bunch of holes in the ground here, and maybe it's just going to collapse into a big earthquake. Probably not, but it's a thought. Scary thought. The eastern portion of the country, pretty quiet there, folks. Puerto Rico seen a little bit of uptick out here yesterday and today. 2s and 3s up here across the Puerto Rico Trench and the region southwest here of Puerto Rico. Of course, this area is always getting squeezed here between the Mariottos Trough and the Puerto Rico Trench up north. Very dynamic area, subduction zone all across this region here. And they can see some big quakes. Right now, it's fairly quiet, aside from those quakes up around Puerto Rico. 3s, 2s, even a 4.9 here off the coast of South America. That 4.9 not showing up here on the USGS map, but they did include a 3.9. Interesting. They're in Chile. All right, so we do have a little bit of activity out there, though, showing up on the Earthquake 3D globe there. That's a combination of USGS and EMSC data. Man, look at that. Hawaii's just rocking and rolling out there. Alaska area, yesterday, a couple earthquakes up here north, way up north, 4.1, a couple other smaller quakes. We did see a 2.6 here. That was early this morning. Generally quite active out here across this area today, from about Denali southward through the Cook Inlet area. Seen a swarm of quakes. Nothing big. Aleutian Trench pretty active as well. This tells me right here that this plate boundary is definitely seeing some pressure and adjustment accordingly. So keep an eye here on the Aleutian Trench. That includes the entire area of the northern Pacific Ring of Fire. A little cluttering going on here across the Indonesia Islands area. Mixed bag of yesterday and today's earthquakes in the 5 range. If we look at the Earthquake 3D globe here, it shows quite a bit of clustering going on in the typical crunch zone out here. A couple earthquakes throughout the Australia region, some 3s. New Zealand jumping in on the 3 magnitude range again. A little bit of deep and shallow adjustment going on there. Quiet once again across Samoa, the Tonga area, Solomon Islands, Vanuatu area. Quiet again. It's a little odd. The Atlantic Ocean, let's go see what's going on up in Iceland here. I've seen a little article here that they're watching it in terms of the inflation going on underneath the Svartsengi area. So we do have a little bit of elevated earthquake activity in general across the south area rift zone here. That includes the Svartsengi region. Normally when we see this earthquake activity, it should be a little bit larger, but it does increase the potential out here in terms of magma accumulation, further escalation here across the area of Grindavik northward. Now let's go check out the Icelandic Met Office here, where they did put out a statement yesterday about the potential of soon-to-be eruption. So we're looking at maybe in the next 2 to 3 weeks is what they're mentioning. A lot of magma has accumulated underneath this area. So previous level here before the eruption back in May, we dropped obviously. Now we're going back up here. Here's our most current run up in terms of inflation, which will lead to an eruption. Rinse and repeat, right? Although they did include the potential here of Grindavik, the south area of the region, being in that hazard zone in terms of eruptive activity. So I've always said it in the beginning that there's a potential, because remember back in December last year, we've seen that magma roll underneath this area, create some huge inflation and then deflation of the land around Grindavik, where we've seen huge holes open up from the subsidence. And, there's always that potential that we could see an eruption there underneath Grindavik. So we'll continue to watch it. Right now, the earthquake activity is not quite to the level that I would think that we're looking at in terms of an impending eruption. We'll obviously see an uptick in the earthquake activity. Mediterranean area, a little bit quieter today. Some older movement there from yesterday. 4.7 earthquake there from, again, yesterday in the red color rings. Newer movement across the Mediterranean. Nothing major going on there today that I can see. Space weather activity, complete dud last night in terms of the G2 class storm that was forecasted there. Goodness, that just completely missed us. I don't even think we've seen anything pop up there from that expected or forecasted G2 class storm. Pretty quiet. Nothing in the forecast for any further aurora events. And some flaring activity, though. We're looking at a little bit of flaring on the sun, the Earth-facing side of the sun, from a couple different far-side sunspots here, including, well, we got one center disk here showing a little bit of C-flare activity right now. Let's see what we had overnight. A couple M flares, very impulsive M flares. So overall threat right now, somewhat elevated, 15% chance for an X flare. M flare around 60% chance, C flare around 99% chance or so. And of course there was a fairly decent far side explosion there. Not facing the Earth, but we did get the effects of the proton events there from that major flare with the subsequent large CME headed away from Earth. That was a decent X flare, even though it didn't show up on the chart as an X flare because it's being blocked here by the sun in general. This was a far side eruption, I believe. It did show up there, and there's some chat floating around that that could have been like an X10 or X13, which would put it above our top level flare so far for this solar cycle. But it obviously not in the Earth-directed view, but had it been Earth-directed, we'd probably be talking about some nice auroras in the forecast. But right now, just pretty quiet. X8.7 is our top standing flare. Remember those series of X flares back in May that produced numerous CMEs and hit us and bombarded the Earth with a lot of plasma, and that plasma produced some awesome aurora shows, even down into Southern California and further. Lower latitudes had quite a treat. Once in a lifetime event, who knows? But we'll see how the rest of the solar cycle plays out. We're not quite there at the maximum area yet, or maximum time frame. It's supposed to be sometime in the summer of next year, as far as solar maximum goes. All right, what else we got? I think that's about it, folks, in terms of any major severe activity on the sun, that is. The Storm Prediction Center calls for a little bit of slight risk category for some severe weather northeast and down in the Arizona area. That's mainly due to, well, no tornado potential, mainly wind and wind. Wind and wind is the potential damage out here from today's severe weather. A little bit of hail maybe up there around the upper New York State area, but nothing major in terms of tornado activity. As far as any close approaches go for the asteroids, let's check out the next 5 close approaches, see what we have. This one coming in tomorrow, a 380-foot asteroid. That's a pretty big one, but notice that's a safe distance there, over 2 million miles away from the planet. I don't see anything here in the forecast. Look at that, 880. Woo! That is a big one, a stadium-size asteroid. Goodness. But that one's even further, 4 million miles away. That's expected here in a couple days. All right, folks, we'll keep an eye on Hawaii. I know it's popping. There's a few earthquakes right there. Popping with earthquakes, not popping literally at the surface yet, but we'll keep an eye on that, right? Obviously, magma is on the move. We're getting a lot of earthquake activity, a lot of pressurization going on just below the subsurface area there, and we got to watch it because I think this could be a nice, maybe a decent eruption there across the Kilauea volcano, and I'm still leaning towards the area unless it moves somewhere else, strictly within this zone right here where we had seen some previous lava flows back in the mid-70s, early 80s. All right, folks, have a good day. Enjoy your Wednesday. A couple more days, and then Friday, and then the weekend is upon us. Woohoo! Have a good one. Stay safe out there.